Others travel through time to cultivate themselves, hanging their golden fingers all the way. Jiang Tang traveled through time to cultivate his true self, and was humiliated by reality to the point of autism. After 3 years of honest farming, Jiang Tang suddenly realized that he had an extra space in the spiritual field. Surprisingly, the spiritual field had grown rare spiritual herbs, medicines, martial arts secrets, and even treasures that had disappeared from ancient times. So Jiang Tang also had his own golden finger. Years later, Jiang Tang, who accidentally cultivated himself into an all-around expert, rose to fame and shed tears, expressing his feelings. Time travel sincerity does not deceive me, the golden finger comes naturally. Keywords of the novel. Spiritual revitalization. I started cultivating immortality from farming without pop-ups. Spiritual revitalization. I started cultivating immortality from farming. Complete collection download. Spiritual revitalization. I started cultivating immortality from farming. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The golden finger was not given at the beginning of the game. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The golden finger was not given at the beginning of the game. The scorching sun burns in the sky, and cicadas chirp uncontrollably. Song Ping, a stone from the immortal family valley, with a grade of Bingshang, and a total of 10 taels of silver. Zhao Yang, 2 stones of Lingdao, with grade B above, totaling 200 taels of silver. At the bottom of the pergola, there was an old man in ink clothes, wearing a jade crown, sitting there, loudly quoting prices while recording every person who came up to sell grain. If it had been in the previous life when the air conditioning could have been turned on, Jiang Tang would have been enjoying the cool breeze and eating popsicles, saying that the weather was nice and the scorching sun was just right. But now, he can only wear a bamboo hat to shade the sun, with his arms exposed in the scorching sun, vigorously pushing the wooden cart, and his eyes constantly looking forward. Jiang Tang wiped a handful of sweat. Go to his grandfather's scorching sun, it's scorching hot. He was originally a modern college student from another time and space, but when he woke up, he traveled to this fictional world where he could cultivate himself. Probably every time traveler has an innate advantage. They can send out golden fingers at the beginning of this world of cultivation and inquiry as soon as they cross, and from then on, the gods will fight against the gods and the Buddha will fight against the Buddha, all the way to the peak of life. And Jiang Tang is an exception. Originally, with the complacency of being the chosen son of a time traveler, he proudly went to the Immortal Gate to participate in the entry-level spiritual route test. Ideals are beautiful, reality is cruel. The cruel reality gave him a head-on blow. He is the most useless miscellaneous spiritual route, unable to even carry out the basic cultivation of introducing qi into the body, let alone preach and ascend. That's all their business, not his business. So Jiang Tang was honorably assigned to become a farmer among the miscellaneous disciples of the Immortal Sect. The farmers of the Immortal Sect grow rice from the mortal realm of the Immortal Sect, as well as various spiritual medicines and herbs. This year, there is a shortage of grain in the Immortal Sect, so at this moment, Jiang Tang's cart is piled up with unshelled Immortal Family Valley. Hey, little friend, come on, there's still a queue behind us. Just as Jiang Tang was sighing, a voice suddenly pulled him back. Seeing that the old man in ink clothes was speaking to him, Jiang Tang suddenly realized and quickly bowed, pulling the cart over to him for tasting. Jiang Tang, a stone from the Immortal Family Valley, with a quality of armor, is worth 500 taels of gold. After carefully examining, the old man in ink clothes immediately showed a satisfied expression on his face, nodded in approval, and then took notes. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Tang's face immediately showed a joyful expression. After 3 years of honest farming, Jiang Tang was destined to become a farmer at the bottom of the social chain in his lifetime. One day, Jiang Tang suddenly realized that the jade stone he was wearing around his neck was actually a spiritual space. And he became the owner of this space precisely because he nurtured jade and stones, thus forming a contract with them. After Jiang Tang entered the space, he found thick fog all around, and could only see 1 acre of land under his feet, scattered seeds, and several volumes of ancient books. After flipping through ancient books, Jiang Tang learned that this spiritual field space is a mysterious treasure, and those who have faith will receive it. All kinds of things generate spiritual energy and are treasures. Lingtian has a vast territory, even larger than this Kyushu continent. And the reason why he can only see 1 acre of land under his feet is all because of his lack of cultivation. As long as his cultivation improves, he can cultivate a spiritual field. According to ancient texts, the cultivated spiritual fields will be gifted with many unexpected treasures. Baby. So Jiang Tang planted seeds in the space under the guidance of ancient books and carefully watched them. After they grew up, Jiang Tang followed an ancient prescription to refine pills and reshape their spiritual roots, allowing them to bring qi into the body and begin cultivation. And this batch of Xianjia Valley was the first batch of crops he planted in the spiritual field. He planted it with a trial mentality. As a result, the seeds in this batch of product phase C actually grew into excellent millet seeds rich in spiritual energy and product phase A. Jiang Tang was completely excited. This golden finger came a bit late, it's better than waiting to die without any food to eat. Little friend, this year's farming has been the best for you. Cultivate well, don't slack off. The old man handed a written sign to Jiang Tang and spoke up with encouragement. Please remember, disciples. Jiang Tang bowed and took the sign, quickly went to exchange money with the external deacon, leaving a group of miscellaneous disciples with envious eyes. Jiang Xiaoyu has been diligent for the past 3 years. Why not report to the sect and apply to join the Lingnong Association? The deacon gave Jiang Tang a money-filled Qiankuan bag and kindly reminded him. The deacon is absolutely right, but the disciple's skills are clumsy and he dare not go to that place to teach. It's better to cultivate honestly. Jiang Tang rubbed his head. The Lingnong Association is specially organized by the Immortal sect, and those who can join it will undoubtedly be one of the top powerful figures in the future. Of course, it does not refer to cultivation, but to their farming work, which can be recognized by the Immortal sect that goes down to earth for inspection. He is only trying to plant in Lingtian for the first time. If he joins rashly, it will be cool if it capsizes in the future. After 3 years of farming, Jiang Tang learned a lesson. Honesty and integrity, coupled with diligence. Besides, although he is on the road to cultivation, he is still a person deep down. People live for wealth. His goal is not in that spiritual farming association. He wants to cultivate himself while earning a lot of money and making himself rich. After all, money is not everything, and without it, it is absolutely impossible. Even though this is a world of cultivation, all major sects in the mortal realm also have to eat and raise a group of disciples with mortal bodies. So they also have to earn money. Jiang Tang originally thought that his dream of becoming rich was hopeless, until the heavens descended into space. After the first wave of receiving goods, Jiang Tang, who had the idea of becoming rich again, planted the seeds of spiritual herbs and elixirs that he had previously secretly hidden on an acre of land. Now, he just needs to water, pull out the grass, practice, and wait for the spiritual grass to grow. Jiang Tang thought happily as he walked towards the practice room. He was completely unaware that the gold he had harvested today had already been targeted by some greedy people. In front of the practice room, Jiang Tang paid silver money to the on-duty steward disciple and was about to enter for cultivation when he was suddenly stopped by one hand. Junior brother Jiang, I have taken care of this place by brother Long. Please wait a moment, junior brother Jiang. The person grinned slightly and then turned around to enter. Jiang Tang raised his eyebrows. He wants to be patient, but it doesn't mean he can tolerate bullying. Senior brother Du, I came to this practice room first. I have already paid the silver. Jiang Tang reached out and grabbed the newcomer's sleeve, opening his lips lightly. He is the last disciple to enter this generation, and because of his weak strength, every miscellaneous disciple here is his senior brother. This servant is Du Long, a famous little tyrant among the miscellaneous disciples. He relied on the support of the external sect to dominate among the miscellaneous disciples, and it is said that he also got an opportunity to participate in the entrance examination of the external sect. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Opportunity comes to your door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Opportunity comes to your door. What, you want to compete with me? Du Long squinted his eyes. Jiang Tang, who felt that this guy's cultivation was more than a little stronger than his own, said. I dare not, I dare not. I can't beat it, I can't be tough. Stinky kid, it's a waste of grandpa's time. Hurry up and pay the money. Du Long showed a hint of anger and spread his palm towards him. Jiang Tang. It turned out to be aimed at his gold. I can't fight, but I can't run. Jiang Tang, who refused to admit his cowardice and was unwilling to take out the silver, pondered for a while before offering a spiritual grass. With a grin and a flattery, he delivered it to Long Gu, saying, I have a soul-nourishing grass here. I got it by chance, and I have come to apologize to Long Gu. This soul-nourishing herb is a treasure from the spiritual field. In terms of quality, it is even purer than the hybrid soul-nourishing herbs outside. The spiritual power it can absorb is very rich. Moreover, soul-nourishing herbs are extremely rare and expensive. Only wealthy children can use them outside, and the resources within the clan belong to those above the level of external disciples. When Du Long saw this soul-nourishing herb, he didn't care about money. He immediately calmed down, snorted coldly, picked up the soul-nourishing herb, and walked into the practice room. The on-duty disciple glanced at Jiang Tang, full of sympathy. Jiang Tang felt a bit sore and secretly thought to himself that when he started practicing, he must knock on the ground in batches. He turned his head back to his yard, sat cross-legged, immersed himself in space, and began to examine his spiritual field. 1 acre of Lingtian was divided into 5 ridges by him, and a total of 200 Lingqiao plants were planted. He was not very familiar with these things, because he had been farming for 3 years, and because of the introduction and planting methods provided in ancient books, practice makes perfect. In fact, he did not cultivate all of the 1-acre land because there was still a small area where he built a cowshed. At the beginning, Jiang Tang cultivated the spiritual field and found that there were insects inside. He tried to put a few chickens in to catch them, and then found that it was possible to bring live animals in. So not long ago, Jiang Tang went down the mountain and bought a small green ox, bringing it into the space specifically to plow the fields. Because only a few seeds were left in the space, there was an empty row. Jiang Tang happened to have some spiritual grass seeds, so he led the little green cow out and fitted it with a spiritual plow, taking it to plow that row of spiritual fields. In just a moment, this newborn calf plowed the ground with a strong force. Jiang Tang led it to the cowshed, took out the accumulated dry spiritual grass from the qiankun bag, put it into the feeding trough, poured it with a large groove of spiritual water, patted its head, and then picked up the hoe and walked to the front of that ridge of land. Twisting the formula to activate spiritual power, Jiang Tang lifted his hoe and knocked on the solidified soil. The soil was shattered, and the spiritual power inside was cleared, starting to flow around. Shattering soil is a delicate job, and Jiang Tang studied for a long time before becoming so familiar with it today. Wiping a fine sweat off his forehead, Jiang Tang couldn't help but show a proud expression on his face when he saw the crushed soil, full of spiritual energy. He took a rake and raked the ground with his well-fed and rested little green cattle. When he saw that the soil became even and no longer undulating, he sowed spiritual grass seeds, watered them, and fertilized them. Little one, you've suffered a lot. Let's go back and rest. He stuffed a handful of beans into little green bull's mouth, and Jiang Tang smiled slightly. The little green ox nodded gently and returned to the cowshed to drink spiritual water. Jiang Tang continued to watch the plants in the space, occasionally twirling and pulling grass. The crops here grow very fast, and it takes quite some time to plant them, and in the blink of an eye, seedlings are born. In an instant, the several ridges of spiritual fields in front had already matured. Jiang Tang quickly took the sickle hanging next to the cowshed, carefully cut off the mature spiritual grass and put it into the qiankuan bag. Adding beans and spiritual water to the little green ox, Jiang Tang finally sweated out of space. After bathing, the setting sun has already set in the west. Jiang Tang went out and suddenly heard a burst of playful laughter from beside him. He climbed up the fence in his own yard and quietly peeked over. A miscellaneous disciple was playing with a 2-foot sword and proudly spoke, "This is the yellow rank sword that my elder brother from the outer sect gifted me. Although it is only a lower grade, it is also an extremely sharp treasure." Listening to his flamboyant display, Jiang Tang's eyes flashed the same envy as those of several other factotum disciples nearby. In this world of cultivation, plants are divided into 4 grades: A, B, C, and D, with a total of 12 grades in the top, middle, and bottom. Weapons are also divided into different levels, just the world and the dark yellow. The 4th grade is also divided into upper, middle, and lower grades, and there are also 12 grades. These high-level items are all spiritual tools that only cultivators can pick up. For someone like him who has been practicing for half a year and only has a 2nd level of physical cultivation, it can be said that he has a long way to go in order to afford such weapons. Hey, it's not urgent. Hurry up with a hammer. When he becomes a planter and wealthy, he still worries about whether he can use his strength to improve his cultivation and wield a long sword to conquer the world. Some things are more urgent and less easy to come by, and the less urgent they are, the more diligent they come by. The opportunity was delivered to Jiang Tang the next day. At the prime of time, looking at the 2 external door deacons in front of the fence courtyard, Jiang Tang, who was drowsy, was suddenly awakened. The 2 deacons, I don't know why they came to seek disciples at this time. What's the matter? Jiang Tang welcomed them in and invited them into the hall, bowing respectfully. Looking at this shabby fence courtyard that even our own dogs despise, the 2 deacons frowned together. Jiang Xiaoyu, I have read that record. In the past 3 years, you have worked hard and earned a lot of money. Why live in such a shabby courtyard instead of a spacious and comfortable one? A deacon frowned. Jiang Tang brewed them a pot of tea made from herbs he had picked from the spiritual field, and then touched his head with an awkward smile, saying, "To be honest, my disciples had a poor childhood and wanted to save some money to open a shop at the foot of the mountain and do some business to earn their own money. Immortal sects allow disciples to do business, but the money earned must be taxed and 20% must be paid to the sect. Paying taxes also has benefits. You can hang the emblem of the immortal sect on the facade, which is equivalent to having a backing. Unless it is oneself who suffers, most people will not easily provoke." The 2 deacons nodded and took a small sip from the old tea cup, feeling a fragrant aroma. The spiritual energy rushed down their lips and teeth into the elixir field. They praised the tea and looked at Jiang Tang's gaze, becoming gentle and kind. "Jiang Xiaoyu, given your 3 years of farming without slacking off and being diligent, the 2 of us took the initiative to earn you a spot in the Farmers Association, earning you over 1,000 taels of silver. Would you be willing to go?" The deacon who had just spoken slowly opened his lips. The fairy gate of the Farmers Association is held in the market, similar to a temple fair, once a year, specifically selling the crops harvested by the fairy gate. The highest selling ones will be rewarded with silver by the immortal sect. That chip, he remembered, seemed to have 1,000 taels of silver. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Really got the top spot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 really got the top spot. I am willing to go, thank you to the 2 deacons. Such a good opportunity to earn money is not worth it. Jiang Tang quickly bowed in response. The 2 deacons stood up, patted his shoulder, and then left. There are still a few days left until the Farmers Association, and Jiang Tang will be busy next. He brought a batch of spiritual grass seeds from the Xianmen Simong, and harvested them after the previous batch of cultivation was mature. He added some natural fertilizer to the soil, and then led a young green ox to plow and loosen the soil before sowing the spiritual grass seeds. When Jiang Tang was gnawing on the spiritual fruit, he accidentally shook it due to the soft hand of the rake, and the fruit fell to the ground. Feeling somewhat regretful, Jiang Tang silently took out a white bread and watched as the spiritual grass quickly took root and sprouted. Suddenly, he felt something moving under his feet. Jiang Tang lowered his head and found that the spiritual fruit had not entered the soil and had grown branches on his own. And looking at this appearance, I think it's better than what I just ate. After 3 or 2 bites of mantu, Jiang Tang hurried to find a shovel to carefully loosen the soil and fertilize the growing trees. After pouring some spiritual water, Jiang Tang suddenly noticed that the mist floating on a nearby spiritual field had become extremely thin. Upon careful calculation, he is about to enter the triple heaven of body refining, and he can unlock this field at that time. With this thought in mind, Jiang Tang quickly left the space and began practicing after taking some spiritual herbs that could absorb spiritual power. As expected, in the early morning of the next day, he stepped into the triple heaven of body refining. Jiang Tang looked at the surging spiritual power in his palm and silently shed tears. I really envy those big shots who drive cheats to the extreme. They can easily get up there, unlike him who has been practicing for 3 years before practicing the triple heaven. The cultivation realm of this world is divided into 9 realms. Refining the body, building the foundation, forming the elixir, elemental baby, will see, spiritual realm, Mahayana, transforming the spirit, and divine realm. Those who practice in the realm of transforming gods can be called semi-gods or semi-immortals, and further up, they need to cross tribulations and ascend. If you succeed in crossing the tribulation, you will become a god. If you fail in crossing the tribulation, you may suffer serious injuries, but in severe cases, you may lose your soul. This is a golden age of cultivation. To be precise, this is the golden age of cultivation where spiritual energy recovers after the end of the Dharma. Due to the large number of ascending beings in previous generations, spiritual energy was depleted and resources could not keep up. Many major sects, even the top-ranked immortal sects in the mortal world, almost lost their inheritance. Later, when the upper realm was discovered, it opened the spirit river and introduced spiritual energy into the mortal realm, allowing people to embark on the path of cultivation again. Throughout history, there have been countless ascending beings, but there are actually very few who can truly ascend to the upper realm. It's better to farm honestly and cultivate honestly. After planting 4 or 5 batches of crops and collecting a lot of things, Jiang Tang, under the guidance of 2 deacons, went to the Farmers Association with several external senior brothers. The people who come to do business are the outer disciples and miscellaneous disciples of the immortal sect. The ones who patronize the business are all disciples of aristocratic families, as well as ordinary people. The Farmers Association is bustling with activity, selling a variety of spiritual herbs, medicines, and even pills. Jiang Tang found a secluded place and started setting up a stall. Not long after, a few well-dressed young men walked over and picked up a few spiritual herbs to carefully examine. Later, they showed a happy expression and asked him about the price. Jiang Tang looked at the spiritual grass and smiled slightly, saying, "They are all the prices set by the court, 10 per do. You kid, you're not like them who only think of ways to take advantage. This spirit grass is also good, so give me a stone." The young master holding the spirit grass nodded immediately. The other few, upon seeing the situation, also picked up their favorite spiritual herbs and asked him about the price. Jiang Tang picked up the goods while receiving money, and after watching them leave, he realized that he had earned a full 1,000 taels of silver from his first transaction. "Young martial brother, you're really lucky. Those young masters are all from a wealthy family, and they're actually willing to see your business. A servant disciple who was selling spiritual grass in a cool shed next to him saw that Jiang Tang had earned so much silver from his first order, and couldn't help but feel envious and sour. A great family. Jiang Tang was taken aback. The top 10 aristocratic families in the mortal world, junior brother, you are really ignorant. The first one to buy your spiritual herb was a disciple of the medical school Huashi. The few behind you are also disciples of the top 10 aristocratic families. The servant couldn't help but shake his head when he saw this. Jiang Tang is clear. I have long heard that there are 10 top cultivation families in this mortal world that are depicted in novels. Because each has its own strengths, it is labeled as a unique profession. For example, the medical school Huashi was renowned in the mortal world for its medical teachings. Hey, those are all the big shots he wants to look up to. Jiang Tang didn't have time to sigh, because there were a few more people who wanted to buy his spirit grass. They all saw those aristocratic young masters buying it here, and their faces showed satisfaction. Curious, they also came to take a look. At first glance, it became joyful. They are all of excellent quality. After hearing Jiang Tang's quotation, he became even more delighted and simply handed over the silver and left with the spiritual grass. As a result, Jiang Tang's business snowballed. In no time, he earned a pot full of white money, which even the deacon elders who were responsible for counting money on the side looked a bit intimidated. Good kid, everyone in the Farmers Association earns less silver than he does alone. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tang won the top spot of this Farmers Association with his dominant appearance. Jiang Tang, who received 1,000 taels of silver, wiped his sweat and silently grinned. Sure enough, getting the silver is the happiest thing. Returning to the courtyard, Jiang Tang suddenly remembered the second acre of land that had not yet been cultivated in the space. Because he was busy preparing for the Farmers Association a few days ago, this matter was delayed by him. Looking back now, Jiang Tang quickly bought a batch of spirit grass seeds and immediately entered the space. He scrutinized the second acre of land carefully. There is a slight color difference from the first acre, and there is a plant on top that has already produced white flower fruits. Jiang Tang walked over to pick one, and the fruit immediately cracked open. The core fell to the ground and turned into a 3-foot-long sword. After a moment of confusion, Jiang Tang realized that this was probably another layer of meaning mentioned in ancient books, that all kinds of things are treasures. With the energy of sucking milk, Jiang Tang picked up this long sword and carefully examined it. For him, Pin Xiang Bing is already an excellent treasure. There is a slight difference in color on this acre of land, and I believe that all the crops grown should be such weapons. Jiang Tang thought to himself and brought the little green ox to cultivate the spiritual field. After a while, Jiang Tang looked at the divided 5 ridges of spiritual fields and sowed the first batch of seeds. The first spiritual grass planted quickly grew and produced huge fruits. Jiang Tang used a sickle to cut off one, and the fruit immediately cracked. The stone that fell to the ground turned into a rake. A nail rake. Jiang Tang picked up the rake while gnawing on the fruit flesh and found that this thing was full of vitality. He walked to the first acre of land and raked twice in the empty field, only to find that the spiritual power of the loosened soil became stronger, and his face couldn't help but show joy. That wooden rake is no longer needed. Use this nail rake for farming, and I believe the soil will nourish the crops even better. Jiang Tang collected the ripe fruits from his second acre of field and put them into his newly purchased Jinkuan bag. Suddenly, he remembered something. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. He really can't fight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. He really can't fight. He has already reached the 3rd level of physical cultivation. Judging from his cultivation level, he can go to the library and ask the deacon for a lower-level Huangjie martial art. Martial arts, I haven't seen anything in my life yet. Jiang Tang rubbed his hands and left his fence courtyard. At the time when Li Ming was just rising, a queue had already formed in front of the library. At this moment, the disciples queuing up are all miscellaneous disciples. They are not very talented and have finally reached a state of cultivation. They can enter the library to choose martial arts secrets, but they are afraid of being taken away by external disciples, so they can only wake up earlier and take advantage of this time to come and collect the martial arts. Jiang Tang arrived early, so he quickly got close to him. After enrolling in the library, Jiang Tang, along with several miscellaneous disciples, looked around curiously at the library. Undoubtedly, it is the world's largest immortal cultivation base. Although this library may seem only a tiny bit large, it actually contains an infinite universe. Upon closer inspection, there are 12 floors here, but these lower-level individuals can only choose martial arts secrets on the first floor. They can't even try to go up, there are restrictions on every level, and forcibly going up will only be erased by the formation triggered by the restrictions. Jiang Tang, who followed the rules, walked around honestly and found that the secret techniques were all written in books or bamboo, and there was only one book available. So the question is, how do they achieve a book that multiple people own? Jiang Tang thought this way and fell in love with a physical fitness secret book. This secret book is called Jinshinju, which can enhance physical fitness and is very suitable for practitioners during the cultivation period. With this, when he plows and cultivates the land, he will not waste a lot of precious spiritual grass due to physical loss. In fact, this is one of the reasons, and another is that when being beaten, you don't feel too much pain. Mainly because he was a humanities student in his previous life and had never learned fighting skills, he can only swing a hoe in this life at most. So he doesn't know any martial arts moves. Those who have successfully traveled through time and started practicing the master's secret script, for him, it can be said that it's not unrelated, but that he hasn't caught up with them at all. After opening the secret script, Jiang Tang found that there was only a pile of abstract drawings on it, and he was stunned. He just wanted to ask if this thing could be understood by humans. How do those time-traveling masters practice after reading the secret script? Get the hang of it. The copper bell outside the door shook, and everyone went out happily, except for Jiang Tang, whose face was bitter. When the deacon looked at him holding the secret script in his hand and his expression was not good, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and say, "What's wrong, little friend?" "I can't understand this secret script," Jiang Tang awkwardly smiled. "It's okay. This secret script is just for you to choose from. The true cultivation techniques and secrets are all engraved in the Jade Order." The deacon smiled at this and took Jiang Tang's book, handing him a Jade Order. New disciples don't understand this. "Here, take your Jade Order and go back to infuse your divine consciousness to check." Jiang Tang suddenly realized that it was so. He took the Jade Order and saw a handful of books in the deacon's hand turning into dots of light and flying back to the library, unable to help but shudder. The truth is that it can be used infinitely. As Jiang Tang walked back, he tried to infuse his divine sense into it. As expected, when his divine sense sensed the techniques engraved in the Jade Order, his mind immediately became filled with mental cultivation techniques and introductory tips. Even there are detailed annotations for beginner operations in the ancient Chinese version. Teaching in such detail step by step, if you can't learn anymore, it's really useless. Jiang Tang couldn't help but sigh. He hadn't gone far yet when he bumped into a person head-on. Oh my! Who doesn't have long eyes? With a painful cry, Jiang Tang was suddenly awakened, immersed in the martial arts and walking with his head down to ponder. He looked up and the corners of his mouth twitched. Why is this little tyrant again? Du Long looked up and recognized Jiang Tang. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and said, "Oh, junior brother, it's you again. This word is very wonderful." Jiang Tang silently took a step back and sneered, "I didn't mean to collide with senior brother." "Good morning, senior brother. I just came out of the library." Du Long looked in the direction he was walking towards and raised his eyebrows again. What secret script did you bring? Come and take a look with me. He said and extended his hand. Jiang Tang instinctively hid the jade ring in his hand. He hasn't fully memorized it yet. Senior brother, this is a lower-level skill of the yellow rank. If it doesn't catch your eye, then forget it. Jiang Tang grinned and sneered again. But the more he kept it hidden, the more Dulong felt that Jiang Tang had obtained a good secret book. He darkened his face and said, "Why, don't you give Long a face?" Jiang Tang wanted to cry without tears. Dare he not give it? He dares not. But what he said is true. Well, since you're not willing to give, I won't talk nonsense to you. In 3 days, do you dare to fight me on the arena? Dulong suddenly waved his hand. Ah! Jiang Tang couldn't keep up with Dulong's brain circuits. Why go to the arena for martial arts competitions? Since you have mastered the martial arts, I believe you need to practice diligently. I am competing with you on the arena just to give you some guidance. Why, unwilling? Dulong squinted his eyes. Is this considered difficult for a strong person? He only knows how to cultivate land, not how to fight. Alright, if you win over Brother Long, I won't come to guide you in the future. If you lose, give me 3 more soul cultivation grasses. What does junior brother think? Dulong saw his numbness and couldn't bear it, so he didn't bother to talk nonsense and went straight to the point. At this point, Jiang Tang could no longer understand that Dulong's little plan was truly foolish and lacking. He still thinks about his soul-nourishing herb. Jiang Tang hesitated. If you don't agree, according to this little tyrant's temperament, you will definitely find a way to find fault and find the end. If they agree, they have written a martial arts treaty for the arena. According to the rules, if he wins, Dulong must abide by the agreement if he doesn't want to be backfired by the treaty. He won't come to trouble again, won't he be able to do it once and for all? Moreover, Dulong only has the 4 heavens of body refining, which is only a small level higher than himself. How about? Give it a try. Jiang Tang hesitated for a moment and nodded slowly, okay. However, senior brother, you must make a treaty with me. What's the difficulty of this? So Dulong and he cheerfully clapped their hands and made a treaty in the name of their souls. As they spoke freely, a magic formation formed under their feet. Junior brother, prepare your soul-nourishing herb earlier. Seeing that the goal was achieved, Dulong patted his shoulder and left in a good mood. Jiang Tang looked at the jade ring in his hand and slowly let out a sigh. As a traveler, it's really uncomfortable to feel so frustrated. But he really doesn't know how to fight. However, Jiang Tang felt that he still needed to work hard. How do you know the outcome if you don't work hard? So, Jiang Tang returned to the courtyard and fell behind. Apart from farming, he devoted all his thoughts to practicing this golden body technique. 3 days later, Jiang Tang slowly opened his eyes and a smile spread from the corner of his mouth. The emperor does not disappoint those who have intentions. His golden body technique has successfully been introduced. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Senior brother, why are you so weak? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Senior brother, why are you so weak? In order to experiment with his golden body technique, Jiang Tang entered the space and began to cultivate land. This time, he plowed 1 acre of land at a speed twice as fast as before, and his breath was not chaotic. He let Little Green Bull come over and hit him again, and Little Green Bull used his horn to push him, but Jiang Tang didn't feel any pain. Hey, the golden body technique has been completed. After harvesting the mature spiritual grass, Jiang Tang plowed these 5 ridges of land with his young green cattle, and then sowed seeds again, watered and fertilized them before leaving the space. Seeing that the time for the martial arts competition was approaching, Jiang Tang hurriedly washed his face and rushed to the arena. Dulong had been waiting on the arena for a long time. Because his reputation as a petty tyrant was quite impressive, when he stepped onto the arena, he immediately attracted a group of idle and wandering miscellaneous disciples to watch. Which unlucky family wants to compete with this little tyrant in martial arts? Curious, he approached and examined the treaty of the martial artist appearing on the light screen of the arena. He discovered that it was Jiang Tang, who had recently won the first prize by the Farmers Association, and couldn't help but shudder. Good kid, this is definitely going to be squeezed by Dulong as fish. As the agreed time was approaching, Jiang Tang's figure was still nowhere to be seen, and the miscellaneous disciples watching the battle began to whisper. So Jiang Tang probably wants to run away, right? Doesn't he know the rules? The fugitive is considered to have automatically given up and is the loser in the north. Anyway, it has nothing to do with us, let's just join in the fun. When Dulong thought Jiang Tang had given up, Jiang Tang came running towards him with a wheezing sound. I went to the restroom, I'm sorry for being late. Jiang Tang walked up to the arena and smirked. After a brief silence, everyone burst into laughter. I'm afraid I might have been scared to pee. Stop talking nonsense, come up with some moves. Dulong suppressed his smile and looked at Jiang Tang mockingly. Brother Long, I'll give you 3 moves. This little waste from the 3 heavens of body refining, no matter how much it is tossed around, cannot defeat him. Jiang Tang offered a spiritual grass to wear, and after recovering his strength, he also offered the magical tool he used today. An iron hoe. When they saw the hoe stained with soil, the disciples who had previously smiled laughed again. Dulong stared coldly at Jiang Tang, and his words seemed to have a bit of biting teeth. Stinky kid, who do you look down on? This guy is actually using a hoe to fight. Ah, this is my magic weapon. No one has a rule for martial arts competitions, you must use swords, spears, and halberds, right? Jiang Tang rubbed his head. Actually, it's him who can only reluctantly pick up those weapons. As for how to use them. He can't play without a mind trick, just play with a hammer. Dulong, with a foul expression on his face, offered a long sword and used his spiritual power to step out, then chopped it towards Jiang Tang. This is the inferior spiritual weapon of the yellow rank that he recently snatched. It's more than enough to deal with this kid. Out of instinct, Jiang Tang lifted his hoe and pushed it against him. The sword energy produced by the long sword was dissolved by the hoe. Dulong was taken aback for a moment and simply used his recently cultivated swordsmanship to step forward and charge towards Jiang Tang. The long sword struck Jiang Tang, who couldn't dodge, but only scratched a shallow wound. Dulong's wrist rebounded from the force and felt a tingling sensation, almost unable to hold his sword. He took a step back and looked up and down at Jiang Tang. Suddenly, he remembered that this guy had gone to the library 3 days ago. Is it possible that this guy has successfully practiced the method? Senior brother, reciprocity, it's my turn. As the beginner level of the golden body technique had already been completed, Jiang Tang didn't feel any pain. He smiled slightly and raised his hoe to smash it at Dulong. Dulong held his sword to resist, but unexpectedly, Jiang Tang appeared tall and thin, but in fact, he had a lot of strength. The hoe fell and his sword split on the spot. And Dulong's nose was also hit by a hoe, leaving a deep bloodstain. The miscellaneous disciples gasped for breath. It's fake, right? Unexpectedly, an iron hoe without a grade level pierced and damaged the spiritual weapon of the lower grade of the yellow rank. After touching the blood on his hand, Dulong's killing intent rose in his heart. Unable to bear it anymore, he used all his spiritual power to attack Jiang Tang. Upon seeing this, Jiang Tang immediately activated the Immortal Sect technique and flexibly changed according to the moves above, fighting against Dulong. The Immortal Sect technique is a unique sect skill that every Immortal Sect disciple must learn when joining a sect. If they fail the mental skill assessment, then in the introductory assessment, they must say goodbye. This is also the only technique that Jiang Tang can wield. A few days ago, while practicing the golden body technique, he suddenly remembered that he had another immortal sect technique, but he had been farming for 3 years and was almost forgetting it. So Jiang Tang took advantage of these 3 days to carefully recall the techniques and moves he had memorized by staying up late, in order to barely use them. Due to the refinement of the golden body technique and spirit grass, Jiang Tang's physique may seem thin and weak, but in reality, it is strong. Du Long exerted great strength, but could only leave shallow scars on his skin, not even bleeding. On the other hand, Du Long felt the rebound of his spiritual power, and his wrist was so painful that he couldn't hold the sword. Finally, when another sword was swung out and bounced back, Du Long's sword fell directly to the ground. And his hand, also hanging under his sleeve robe, trembled for a moment. "Senior brother, why are you so weak?" Jiang Tang raised his eyebrows. He laughed uncontrollably in his heart. It seems that practicing the golden body technique is right. It doesn't hurt at all when being beaten. Damn it, are you deceiving me? Du Long was so angry that he couldn't calm his chest and cursed profusely. It's too humiliating to be beaten like this by a person who cultivates the triple heaven. I didn't cheat, Jiang Tang shook his head. I will keep my promise, Brother Long. I won't come to see you in the future. But don't be complacent too early, stinky boy. I will repay today's humiliation. Du Long sneered, picked up his completely broken long sword, and quickly left the arena. The crowd dispersed one after another when the good play came to an end. Jiang Tang shrugged his shoulders. It seems like there's still trouble, forget it, let's go back. His farming has matured a lot. After leaving the arena, Jiang Tang quickly returned to the courtyard, entered the space, and began harvesting mature crops from 2 acres of field. Halfway through, Jiang Tang suddenly heard a strange sound. He turned around and caught a glimpse of the little green ox lying on the ground, foaming at the mouth, and his eyes filled with pain. I'm going, little one. What did you eat here? Jiang Tang was startled and quickly threw his sickle over, stopping to carefully examine. He saw the little green cow spitting out a flower with a unique shape, picked it up and identified it, and immediately chuckled, "You're being greedy. This is poisonous. I planted it for self-defense, but you ate it. Originally, this is a poisonous herb in the spiritual field. According to the information in ancient books, grinding this poisonous herb into juice can produce various highly toxic pills. He was thinking of using this thing to refine pills or poison powder, which could be used for self-defense in the future. After planting, he did not lock the little green ox and let it nibble on the spiritual grass in the first acre of land. As a result, the little green cow ate the poisonous grass while eating. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Meeting Yu Chen for the first time, his sword technique is immortal, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Meeting Yu Chen for the first time, his sword technique is immortal, 1. Jiang Tang brought the detoxifying spirit grass to feed the little green cow, and then carried it directly back to the cowshed. Little one, you need to recognize it clearly in the future. If I don't come in time, your life will be ruined. Jiang Tang poked little green bull's forehead. Moo. The little green cow rubbed against Jiang Tang's waist and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Jiang Tang added some food and water to it before continuing to harvest. His 2 chinquan bags are almost full. Let's go down the mountain in a few days to buy a bigger one and look for a good shop along the way. In these days, Jiang Tang has already accumulated enough funds to start using. After careful consideration, he decided to start a small shop and earn money before opening a branch. After harvesting 2 acres of crops, Jiang Tang saw the sickly appearance of the little green cow, so he didn't pull it up to plow the land. Instead, he crushed the soil by himself and raked the whole field until the fertilizer and soil were mixed evenly before sowing the seeds. After practicing the golden body technique, Jiang Tang didn't feel too tired after completing the task on 2 acres of land. There is only a thin layer of sweat on the back. He took down a spiritual herb to restore his strength, and the herb melted at the entrance and rushed towards the elixir field. Jiang Tang suddenly became energetic again. But he doesn't intend to continue working. The called balance of work and rest. Leaving the space, it was already late at night when Jiang Tang bathed. But he didn't feel any drowsiness. Looking up at the sky, Jiang Tang quietly listened to the cicadas and frogs chirping at night. There are a total of 4 major cultivators in the mortal realm, including the Northern Immortal sect, the Southern Taiji sect, the Eastern Yuan sect, and the Western Holy Medicine Valley. If divided by strength, then the Immortal sect should occupy the top tier. The Immortal sect is the largest cultivation sect in the world, with 60% of its resources, and the remaining 3 sects divided by 20%. Behind these 4 major sects, each occupies one side of the Kyushu continent and is also affiliated with countless small forces. As for the middle of the mainland, which is also the Central Plains, it is the tightly protected Central Plains dynasty. The heavenly kingdom that unified the Central Plains. The imperial family of the heavenly dynasty, also known as the Shenyuan clan, was given the title of Imperial Gate. There are numerous resources in the Immortal sect, and when divided by levels, only a small amount falls into their hands. But compared to other sects, the resources provided by the Immortal sect are definitely one by one. Because the current leader of the Immortal sect is an Earth Immortal. It is said that the sect leader was able to ascend thousands of years ago, but he did not ascend. Instead, he chose to stay in the mortal realm, bless all directions, and deter evil spirits. Hey, I really want to see what the upper realm looks like. Forget it, I still don't want these unrealistic goals. The goal in my lifetime is to cultivate and cultivate, then cultivate land, and strive to become a grower. Jiang Tang returned to the room and began to continue practicing the golden body technique. Having tasted the sweetness, Jiang Tang decided to cultivate this golden body technique to the level of Xiaocheng before applying to go down the mountain. In the blink of an eye, 5 days flashed by. On that day, Jiang Tang, who was sitting motionless on the bed, suddenly emitted a golden light. He suddenly opened his eyes and a smile spread from the corner of his mouth. Golden body technique, enter Xiaocheng. That's all for it. He even managed to reach the level of Xiaocheng in the triple heaven of body refining. After harvesting mature crops and plowing the fields with lively young cows, Jiang Tang suddenly realized that his seeds were gone. Okay, let's go down the mountain and find a batch of rare medicinal herbs to plant. Jiang Tang thought this way and quickly went out of space to find the outer door attendant. After registering and leaving the mountain, he took the sign and left leisurely along the long staircase that spread to the foot of the mountain. Little did they know that someone had been staring at him for a long time. This person is Du Long. Since being beaten by Jiang Tang, who had lowered his own level, Du Long has been ridiculed by his elder brother from outside. So Du Long became even more resentful towards Jiang Tang. This stinky kid has finally come down the mountain. Humph, let's see how I deal with you. Du Long sneered and pushed the 2 miscellaneous disciples next to him. Do you know what to do? I know. The 2 disciples flattered and quickly went to find the deacon elder. After registering, they left the mountain. Stinky kid, it's better to die outside. If you go back to the sect, I still have a way to deal with you. Du Long looked at the direction down the mountain with a grim expression, sneered, and turned his head to leave. At this moment, Jiang Tang was completely unaware that he was going to be in big trouble. After leaving the mountain, Jiang Tang followed the vague memories in his mind and arrived at a deserted and dilapidated farmhouse. In the courtyard of the farmhouse, there are 2 graves. This used to be the original home. That year, for some unknown reason, the harvest in all directions of the mainland was poor, and crops inexplicably withered and died in large areas, causing famine. Later, it was the top 10 aristocratic families and the 4 major sects that opened warehouses and distributed grain, which together quelled the disaster that spread throughout the entire Kyushu continent. Even though the Holy Medical Valley and medical schools have mobilized, distributing medicinal herbs and providing relief to all directions, countless people have died inside. The parents of the original body gave all the remaining clean food in the family to the original body, and they nibbled on the bark, intending to endure it. Later, they couldn't help but go to the mass grave and catch dead mice that ate human corpses. The people who were buried on the mound were all killed by the plague caused by famine and starvation. The mouse ate human flesh from the plague, and the original parents ate mouse meat, so they got the plague and died in that famine. Leaving behind a lonely original self, burning down one's own parents, and growing up relying on eating from all walks of life. Until he was 16 years old, his original body accidentally fell into the river and drowned. He happened to cross over to replace his original body, and later became a disciple of the Immortal sect, where he truly had a place to live and could eat and wear warm clothes. Poor person. After sighing, Jiang Tang bowed and worshipped 2 graves, lit incense, and burned some paper money before leaving. Just before Jiang Tang had gone much further, he noticed something wrong. It can't be said that something is wrong, that is, he always feels like someone is following him. Jiang Tang looked around and didn't see anything. He thought he was stunned and shrugged his shoulders to the nearby market. What is sold here are all spiritual herbs and elixirs dug by the people from the mountains, because some people have not seen them before and mix them with weeds, making it difficult to distinguish. Jiang Tang found some rare spiritual herbs and medicines mixed with fish and dragons in these spiritual herbs. Seeing their good appearance, he prepared to buy them at the market price. The boss saw that although Jiang Tang was dressed in coarse clothes, his demeanor was different from that of ordinary people, and he dared not raise the price with him, so he kept pushing himself down. Old man, everyone relies on this to make a living. You can accept it. The prices I give are all set by the court. Jiang Tang shook his head and stuffed the silver into the old man's hand. Seeing that Jiang Tang had moved out of the court of the heavenly dynasty, the boss followed his words and took the money in great fear. After strolling around and buying several rare but poorly-looking spiritual herbs, Jiang Tang rented a carriage and called the coachman to rush to the nearby Lingshui town, intending to buy a larger storage space Chinkuan bag. P.S. I need to save my manuscript and put it on the shelves. If you feel that it's not enough to read, you can give me a reward to urge me to make changes. I will give you a 10,000 yuan reward and an additional chapter, which will add up to 3 changes. Also, thank you for signing up with the first reader and book friend on 20210301106504299418 for your reward. Thank you very much. Your reward is the driving force for me to move forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Meeting Yu Chen for the first time, his sword technique is immortal, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. The developed pill works, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The developed pill works, 1. This is the Holy Gate talisman, exclusively used by the Upper Realm Immortal family to spy on our shop. The shopkeeper smiled and explained to Jiang Tang. Originally, in order to protect the mortal realm, the Upper Realm Immortal Court selected the best practitioners of the 10 elements to form the Imperial Gate, Sword Gate, Medical Gate, Taoist Gate, Buddhist Gate, Poison Gate, Gu Gate, Blade Gate, Spirit Gate, and Holy Gate. Among them, the Imperial Gate governs the world and proves the Tao. Jian Men is known for wielding swords and practicing martial arts in all directions. The medical school uses the hanging pot to preach to the world. Dao Men use slaying demons to prove the way. The Buddhist sect uses the incense and fire of those who worship the Buddha to demonstrate their teachings, while the Poison sect uses poison to slay evil spirits to demonstrate their teachings. Gu Men use Gu techniques to eliminate harm and prove their teachings. The Tao sect is dedicated to slaying those who have caused trouble in the world as a way of preaching, Ling men use beasts to ward off demons and prove their teachings. Most of these are directly linked to cultivation, only the Holy Gate is used to support the world through commerce and preach. The top families are those engaged in these industries. It's just a family of 10 generations, but there are only 9. Just because of that Holy Gate, since the rise of the clan leader of the ancient Holy Gate, the younger generation has declined and disappeared. To this day, there is no other merchant who can enter the Holy Gate and be listed among the top 10 aristocratic families. This talisman, we people who do business in various industries will write it on it for observation by the upper bound. If one day we have great luck, it may be the second generation Holy Gate, the shop owner said as he longed for it. Jiang Tang listened attentively without any words. These tall things have nothing to do with him. He just wants to farm well, become a wealthy tycoon in this world, and then allow himself to freely enjoy spiritual grass. After the agricultural tools were made, Jiang Tang paid the silver and thought for a few more days. He planned to find some spiritual grass seeds to stock up on, and after planting them, they could be sold to his own sect. He stayed in a nearby inn, ate 2 mantu casually, and began to meditate after nightfall. While meditating, Jiang Tang went into the spiritual field space. All the crops in the space have matured. Jiang Tang quickly offered a newly crafted sickle and began harvesting these grown spiritual herbs and medicines. I don't know if it's the effect of money, but he intuitively felt that he was harvesting faster. After working hard for an hour and a half, Jiang Tang finished collecting 2 acres of spiritual field. During the harvest of the spiritual field in the second act, Jiang Tang dug out several ancient books in the field. He opened the soil and examined it carefully, discovering that these ancient books were actually ancient medical classics. Jiang Tang flipped through a few pages and became excited. What is written here are all prescription pills, including common formulas that have been passed down to this day and ancient formulas that have been lost. Moreover, many rare medicinal herbs are found in his spiritual field. If these pills are developed and refined, and then sold, wouldn't he make a lot of money? Jiang Tang carefully collected these few ancient books into the qianquan bag, then brought the little green ox and plowed the land with it. The little one is growing so fast that he has become a big one. In the future, he will call you Brother Nyo. Hurry up and work, I have bought you some new provisions. Jiang Tang patted the sturdy forehead of the little green cow and stuffed a handful of beans into its mouth. The little green cow swung its tail and chewed on the beans, while vigorously plowing the fields. In less than an hour, both of them plowed these 2 acres of land. Jiang Tang picked a few loads of high-quality fertilizers bought from the market and melted them into the spiritual field, then urged the golden body technique to start crushing the soil. The soil quickly becomes fertile and full of vitality. Satisfied with sowing seeds and watering them, Jiang Tang added a lot of provisions to the little green cow before leaving the space. When it came out, it was already the end of the ugly season. Jiang Tang used his divine sense to examine his elixir field. The accumulated cultivation is pitiful. Before entering space, he practiced for 2 hours. This person has poor physical qualifications and can be said to be mediocre. If it weren't for using the elixirs provided in ancient books and refining elixirs from the medicinal herbs in the spiritual field to wash the meridians and cut the marrow, he might still be in the stage of introducing qi into the body. Practice is still too slow. Jiang Tang decided to borrow an alchemy room after returning to his sect and refine another batch of pills to improve his qualifications. But this time, he needs to improve the prescription according to the medical code. Jiang Tang summoned the waiter to add a bucket of hot soup, and after taking a bath, he took advantage of the refreshing morning to leisurely walk towards the Western market he had never been to before. Along the way, he heard some early rising women chatting in groups of 2 or 3 while selecting vegetables. "Did you hear that something big happened last night?" "I heard about it." "So, that's heartless. Why did you run here?" "Oh, who knew? Yesterday, the young master of the Su family in Jianmen, the Qianqian Jun, personally took action, which caused quite a stir. That's right. My second daughter woke up in the middle of the night and is still crying. I don't know when we can completely eradicate these evil ways. Jiang Tang paused for a while to make a rough idea. Su Chang'an was in Lingshui town last night, catching disciples of the evil sect. He dispatched many shadow guards and captured more than 10 disciples of the evil sect alive. Big Brother is truly a big brother. Jiang Tang sighed. In this world, there are both righteous and evil ways. The practitioners of the evil path practice all the crooked techniques of the evil sect, which are used to benefit the common people. The righteous disciples act chivalrous and righteous, firstly to prove their virtue and cultivate immortality, and secondly to eliminate all evil ways. But the forces of the evil path are as intertwined as the righteous path, so for thousands of years, the righteous path has been firmly rooted. Wherever there is an evil path, they will go and deal with their disciples. The two realms of righteousness and evil are like water and fire, incompatible with each other. Jiang Tang wandered around for a few more days, bought a lot of spiritual grass seeds and hoarded them before returning to the immortal sect. Du Long has been waiting for the news of Jiang Tang's death. But after waiting for 3 or 2 days, I didn't arrive. Not long ago, the outer gate deacon took 2 dusty soul stones and found the servant deacon. He said that 2 servant disciples died in danger outside and recorded their names on the record. He collected the stones and left. He only then realized that his 2 little brothers had been killed. As for who was killed, he didn't inquire. He heard that the deacon elder was going back in time, but after seeing it, he remained silent and didn't mention it. Could it be someone else killed them both? Or is it that Jiang Tang killed it? Du Long felt that it was unlikely that someone else had killed them. After all, these 2 were just miscellaneous disciples. There are rules in the immortal sect that prohibit the killing of life and death during internal cultivation, unless a life and death certificate is signed. Those who go out for training are not considered to be alive or dead. Therefore, in order to compete for resources and personal grievances, many disciples will secretly kill their fellow disciples when they go out. The more Du Long thought about it, the more he felt that Jiang Tang had killed them. He gritted his teeth fiercely, with a fierce gleam in his eyes. Don't think you can escape this disaster. Du Long has always had a narrow-minded nature, always seeking revenge. He has to pay back the losses and humiliations he has suffered. With a glint of his eyes, he came up with a plan and quietly left. Jiang Tang returned to the courtyard and quickly harvested the mature crops in the spiritual field. Then, he loosened the soil, sprinkled newly purchased seeds, and watered them before running to the outside door to collect the spiritual plants. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Developed Pill Works, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Developed Pill Works, 2. The recipient is still the old man in ink clothes from the previous time. Seeing the spiritual plants planted by Jiang Tang, the old man's face showed surprise. Most of these spiritual plants are from grade A, which is the worst grade Xianjia Valley. They are all from grade B. The amount of gold is huge. I'll exchange it for silver notes and take it with you. The old man stroked his long beard and smiled slightly. Undoubtedly, he is the first in the Agricultural Association, and this kind of thing that comes out is different. Jiang Tang nodded hastily. The gold and silver in this world are all custom-made and authentic by the authorities, so they will not be adulterated. After receiving the silver banknotes, Jiang Tang carefully counted them. After deducting the tax money, he still had 10,000 taels of silver. With more than 500 taels left on him, he can also be considered a small millionaire. At least Jiang Tang thinks so. When he first arrived, he only had a penny all over his body. He couldn't bear to eat the white bread he bought. He hid it for several days and only ate half of it when it turned green. If it weren't for joining the immortal sect, he would be a starving corpse now. Jiang Tang was overjoyed in his heart. He put the silver ticket into his Qiankuan bag and walked straight towards the alchemy room. The alchemy room of the miscellaneous disciples is the most rudimentary in terms of facilities. A thatched cottage, a yellow rank inferior alchemy furnace. There is no desk, not even a candle. Not to mention the wait for dividing medicinal herbs. Jiang Tang had long been accustomed to it. The first time he learned alchemy, he was shocked for a while, thinking that the facilities were so rudimentary. Later, when he heard his senior brother say to divide the medicine and weigh it, he realized that the alchemy room had to deal with as many people as possible. We cannot blame the sect either. The miscellaneous disciples are not very talented, and there are not many who can refine pills. The alchemists have all gone to the outer gate, even the inner gate and the true transmission. The on-duty disciple guarding the alchemy room saw him and yawned lazily, saying, "The alchemy room costs 21 per hour." Jiang Tang quickly paid 6 hours of money and walked in to lock it inside. He turned on the stove and then took out a pile of tools for weighing medicine and making medicinal herbs from the Qiankuan bag. These are all harvested from the spiritual field. He looked good and kept them for his own use. 1 cent of soul-nourishing grass, 2 coins of spirit cage grass, and 6 centimeters of body-shaping medicine. Jiang Tang followed the secret script from ancient books and improved it according to his own situation, silently reciting in his heart while weighing medicine. After weighing it, Jiang Tang noticed that the stove was on fire, so he quickly crushed these medicines and put them into a small plate on the stove. Then, he poured a can of spiritual water into the small opening at the top of the stove, and began to stare intently at the fire. Alchemy, like crushing soil, is also a technical skill. The heat and dosage of the medicine are not in place, and the resulting product is not good, but also mixed with many impurities, resulting in inferior medicinal properties and impure pills. This kind of pill cannot cure people or sell at a good price. At first, Jiang Tang was a bit worried that the medicinal herbs would burn, but later on, when the herbs dissolved in water, they emitted bursts of medicinal fragrance. Jiang Tang simply let go of his worries and let the medicinal herbs condense and form themselves. About an hour later, the first batch of pills completely became the climate. A strong medicinal fragrance wafted out, and Jiang Tang knew that the pill was ready. He quickly twisted the formula to turn off the pill fire, then put on a pair of thick gloves and took out the hot-baked plate. There are 4 or 5 pills on the plate, which have an excellent color and clear patterns on them. Jiang Tang grinned. Quenching pill, done. In terms of quality, although it is not as refined as that of Yimen and Xingyi Valley, it is still enough for him to refine his body. Jiang Tang thought to himself, putting these pills into porcelain bottles, and then taking out more harvested spiritual herbs to start refining other pills. These pills are all meant to be sold for money. He meticulously refined the elixir until 6 hours had passed, when an external disciple knocked on the door and urged him to leave. Jiang Tang collected his things and quickly got up to leave. What kind of elixir can a miscellaneous disciple refine? It's just pretending to be a god and playing tricks on ghosts. The disciple glanced at Jiang Tang, who was running away, sneered, and went in to clean up. But as soon as he took a step in, he smelled a refreshing fragrance of medicine. It's a superior pill. The disciple was shocked and looked in the direction of Jiang Tang's departure, feeling a burning pain on his face. Jiang Tang returned to the courtyard and didn't care to check the crops in the spiritual field. He directly offered a body-quenching pill and took it down. This was refined by him, and it is unclear whether the results will be better than before. Jiang Tang set aside his distractions and felt a burning tearing pain in his muscles and veins. He began to concentrate on following the spiritual power surging from the dantian to refine his body. The pain grew stronger and stronger, as if even the bones were about to burn in the end. Jiang Tang's face turned white into paper. To survive, to earn big money. To survive, to earn big money. Deeply exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Jiang Tang trembled and began to imprint his hands, guiding the impurities in his body to be expelled from his muscles and skin follicles. Time flies by in a flash, and in the blink of an eye, it is the next day at Haisher. Jiang Tang suddenly opened his eyes, and a burst of spiritual light scattered from him. He lowered his eyes and looked into his palm. The spiritual power surged in the palm of the hand, becoming stronger and stronger than before. Quenched body also. That's okay, his cultivation has been driven and he has stepped into the 4 levels of body cultivation. Moreover, judging from the spiritual power in the Dantian, his realm is not ethereal and is already very stable. This ancient elixir is indeed good. Jiang Tang smiled a few times and suddenly smelled a foul odor. His stomach rolled a few times, quickly boiling a bucket of hot soup, adding soap and herbs, and then he began to take a bath. One of the joys shared by ancient and modern people in this era is taking a bath. Of course, they soak in spiritual water and use spiritual medicine. Medicine baths are also used to strengthen the body and have a long-lasting effect. Another thing is that the effect of medicinal baths is not as significant as that of body-quenching pills, and it is only suitable for ordinary people to extend their lifespan. For those who practice meditation, it is purely used for bathing or leisure time. Jiang Tang took advantage of taking a bath and used his divine sense to examine the spiritual field space. Niu Guer is already soundly asleep, and the farming on 2 acres of land is very vigorous and mature. Brother Niu has already rested, let's come harvest tomorrow. Jiang Tang glanced at the thick fog nearby again and found that one area had become slightly thinner. He grinned. By further elevating the realm, this one can be unlocked. I don't know what kind of things can be grown in this vast spiritual field. Leaving the Lingtian space, Jiang Tang got up and dressed, poured out the bath soup, and suddenly heard a faint cry. Brother, Jiang Tang quietly approached and saw the little one in the neighboring yard burning paper money in the middle of the night. However, it is not allowed in the sect to offer sacrifices to family members. To offer sacrifices, one must go out to offer sacrifices. Senior brother, your family has a long life. Jiang Tang coughed. The person panicked and quickly got up, about to step on the fire. Don't step on it, I won't report you to the sect. I don't like to make small reports. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Tools are agricultural tools, I am proud and proud, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Tools are agricultural tools, I am proud and proud, 1. The disciple was shocked upon hearing this, and then sighed, thank you, junior brother. Today is not my Mingshou. Originally, this disciple's name was Yao Xian and he had once joined the immortal sect with Jiang Tang. Because he was older, he became Jiang Tang's senior brother. Yao Xian's talent is not high either, and he only has the ability to cultivate his body in the double heaven until now. He diligently cultivated land to earn income, which he gave to himself. The rest was sent to his only living relative at the foot of the mountain, his brother Yao Sheng. Yao Sheng is not a cultivator, he is a scholar. Most of the 10 years of hard study in the cold window have damaged Yao Sheng's body. In recent years, his body has been deteriorating, and he can't even go to the autumn court. This is really frustrating for Yao Xian. He basically invites a doctor to check Yao Sheng's pulse every month, then follows the doctor's prescription to take medicine and asks someone to boil it, and also buys medicinal materials to refine pills for Yao Sheng's treatment. In this way, all the silver that Yao Xian had worked hard to save was spent. During this period, Yao Xian was so exhausted that he was brushed off when he turned in his farming work, and there was no reward at all. As Yao Sheng was about to die of illness, Yao Xian couldn't help but cry and complain to his deceased parents at night. Senior brother Yao, I have a bottle of Yizhuan Shuling pill that can treat diseases. If you don't mind and believe me, then take it with your brother and take it. The medicinal effect will be better than the one outside. I refined it myself. After listening, Jiang Tang took out a bottle of pill from the Qiankuan bag and handed it over. Danyao is classified into different levels based on its patterns, with one pattern representing 1 turn and 2 patterns representing 2 turns, totaling 9 turns. Zhouzhuan pill, not to mention in the mortal realm, is extremely rare in the immortal realm. Because when refining the 9 transformations elixir, the elixir will generate spirituality, which will also lead to the calamity of heaven and earth, commonly known as the Dan calamity. If the pill is stolen, the medicine will succeed; if the pill is stolen, the medicine will destroy and people will die. Throughout history, those who can refine the 9 transformations pill are just a few powerful figures from ancient times in the medical school and the Holy Medicine Valley. They have long been sitting or soaring, and now the spiritual energy of the mortal world has revived. Anyone who can refine the 5 transformations pill can be praised as a living immortal. Yao Xuansu and Jiang Tang have a good relationship and are neighbors, always taking care of each other. He also knows Jiang Tang. He has been reading medical books recently and has learned how to refine pills. The pills he has refined are truly good. At this moment, he is willing to lend a helping hand, but he has no choice but to refuse. Yao Xian immediately held the small porcelain vase in both hands, treasured it and put it into his Qiankuan bag. He then knelt down towards Jiang Tang, ready to bow and bow. I'll go to senior brother. Don't bother me, it's really frustrating. Jiang Tang was taken aback and quickly pulled Yao Xian up. As expected, this is a life-saving gesture, Yao Xian said, his eyes turning red and he was about to cry. Senior brother, don't cry and cry, a big old man. Jiang Tang patted his shoulder. It's best for this fire to be extinguished after burning the paper money. If someone else sees it and orders to chew your tongue, senior brother will be punished. Yao Xian nodded heavily and watched as Jiang Tang left, feeling a big stone fall from his heart. He stopped hesitating and immediately applied to go down the mountain the next day, rushing to his brother's house. Jiang Tang went to find the external deacon and showed them a batch of pills he had refined before selling them to the sect. When it was confirmed that all these pills were made by Jiang Tang, several identified external deacons were all surprised. I never imagined that even a miscellaneous disciple could refine such superior pills. Unfortunately, his cultivation is not good enough, otherwise I would have wanted to lead him to the outside world. A deacon looked at Jiang Tang, who was going to collect the silver, shook his head and sighed. What's the rush? This kid has spent 3 years cultivating to the 4th level of physical cultivation, and he's already much better than other miscellaneous disciples. A nearby deacon smiled slightly. Yeah, have you heard about it? A few days ago, Jiang Tang and Du Long competed in the arena. He used his cultivation in the 3 heavens to crush Du Long, who was almost perfect in the 4 heavens. But now, it's only been a while since he was already in the 4 heavens. This child has been farming for 3 years, honest, hardworking, and willing to work hard. In the future, entering the outside world is not a guaranteed thing. Several deacons nodded and secretly praised Jiang Tang. After Jiang Tang left, he happily counted the silver and went to the farm to sell a batch of spiritual plants. He was about to rush to help his friends harvest the crops when he was suddenly stopped by a group of miscellaneous disciples. A bowl of cold water poured onto Jiang Tang. At this moment, it was the dog days of summer, and the weather was hot. The sour and smelly smell of rotten water suddenly drifted out. Not only did Jiang Tang frown, but those who splashed water on him also held their noses and kept away. As they retreated further, they relaxed their hands and grinned mockingly without hesitation. Tell you to kill senior brother He and senior brother Wang. This basin of water is what we will return to you for the 2 senior brothers. The disciple who splashed the water raised the wooden basin in his hand and gave a cold smile. Be patient, be patient. Jiang Tang took a deep breath, but almost fainted from the disgusting smell all over his body. He smiled slightly and gritted his teeth, saying, Senior brothers, I misunderstood. Jiang Tang doesn't even know the so-called senior brothers he and Wang. Misunderstanding. The splasher spat on the ground and glanced at the person behind him, pointing to Jiang Tang. Everyone, listen to me. Killing someone outside is not worth it. The sect has such a scumbag. Should we take action to teach him a lesson and bring justice for the two senior brothers? Yes. Now, Jiang Tang still didn't understand that they were clamoring for justice. It was the two people outside who wanted to kill him. He was really foolish. I'll say it again, I didn't kill it. Jiang Tang's eyes filled with a hint of displeasure. No matter how good your temper is, it will now evaporate with the stench all over your body. Damn it, I want to hit someone. The disciple led by Up offered a wooden stick and rushed towards Jiang Tang. His name is Chuzhua, and he had a deep friendship with the two disciples who were killed. Knowing that the last person they met after leaving the mountain was Jiang Tang, he believed that these two people were killed by Jiang Tang and held a grudge. On this day, Chuzhua seized the opportunity and led one of his followers to teach Jiang Tang a harsh lesson in this remote place. Several other miscellaneous disciples, upon seeing this, also offered long sticks and attacked Jiang Tang. Group brawl. You're being naughty. Jiang Tang was startled, and the anger that was stirred up dissipated instantly. He quickly ran towards his courtyard while activating the golden body technique. He sprinkled poison powder on the courtyard, and as long as those who approached had ulterior motives, the poison powder would stun them. However, these cultivations are all in the 4 heavens of body refining, and Chuzhua has already reached the 5 heavens of body refining. Their body speed is almost the same as himself. Even Chuzhua is much faster than him. As Chuzhua was about to catch up with him, Jiang Tang gritted his teeth and suddenly stopped. End of this chapter.